Welcome to EchoShade, where history whispers its darkest secrets and forgotten stories.
They called her the Virgin Queen, the monarch of iron will, the woman who bent an empire to her desire. But inside the silk-lined chambers of her great palaces, away from the eyes of ambassadors, nobles, and scheming courtiers, there was a quieter title whispered only in fear. The Queen who never aged. Because while time carved deep lines into the faces of everyone around her, Elizabeth remained strangely untouched. The same sharp jawline, the same glowing skin, the same youthful fire in her eyes. For years, people believed it was vanity, or fate, or perhaps simply the stubborn pride of a queen who refused to show weakness. But the truth was far darker. Elizabeth herself had grown terrified of aging long before the world noticed she wasn't aging at all. That fear didn't come from insecurity. It came from the brutal reality of the Tudor throne. A queen who appeared old was a queen who appeared vulnerable. Vulnerability invited challenge, and challenge in Tudor England often meant death. Her image was her shield, her youth a silent weapon. Every morning, the polished mirrors of Whitehall showed her a version of herself she had sworn would never change. Because to age was to lose authority, and to lose authority was to lose everything. In her early 30s, when the first faint wrinkles appeared at the corners of her eyes, her heart clenched with a fear she had never felt before. The daughter of Henry VIII could face rebellions, invasions, excommunications, but not the slow, merciless touch of time. One morning, while preparing for court, her trusted lady-in-waiting Catherine Ashley hesitated before tightening the Queen's collar. Elizabeth caught her reflection and saw the hesitation, the flicker of surprise. The silent question Catherine dared not speak. It was enough. That night, Elizabeth summoned Catherine privately. Her tone was calm, but her eyes carried a storm. I will not let time rule me. I will not allow my enemies to find comfort in a wrinkle. Catherine tried to soothe her. You are still young, my lady. You are strong. But Elizabeth cut her off. Strength is not what they see. A queen is not judged by her heart, but by her appearance. If they believe age weakens me, then age must never appear. It was that night Catherine mentioned a name spoken rarely in court. A mysterious cosmetic maker known not for beauty, but for results. Mistress Unraveling. A woman whose past was a web of rumor, whose skills seemed too precise to be ordinary. Some whispered she was an alchemist. Some said she had once served foreign courts. Others believed she had knowledge no ordinary woman should possess. Catherine brought her to the palace at night, through a side entrance no guest ever used. Elizabeth waited in a dimly lit chamber, the scent of burning candles thick in the air. She studied the woman who entered. Unraveling wasn't beautiful. She wasn't young. Her eyes were sharp, too sharp, like someone who saw more than she should. She bowed deeply. My queen, she whispered. I hear you require something enduring. Elizabeth felt a chill. There was something unsettling about the woman, something she couldn't name. But desperation has a way of silencing caution. What I require, Elizabeth said, is a way to preserve what must not be lost. Arveline walked slowly around her, observing, calculating. I can give you youth, she said at last. But youth has a price. Elizabeth met her gaze steadily. I am a queen. I do not fear price. Arveline smiled, an expression that held no warmth. Then I shall make for you a mask that preserves. A mask that protects. A mask that deceives time itself. The next night, Arveline returned with a small container filled with a thick, pale substance that shimmered faintly under candlelight. It looked harmless, almost elegant. This, Arveline said, is made from compounds unknown to common hands. It draws out the imperfection of skin and leaves only smoothness behind. Elizabeth dipped a finger into the paste. It was cool, too cool. Almost icy. She felt a strange tingling sensation travel through her fingertips. What is in it? Elizabeth asked. Aveline's answer was soft. Elements that purify. Elements that preserve. Pores. And elements that bind. Elizabeth didn't understand the last word, but her desire overwhelmed her questions. That night, for the first time, the Queen of England applied the mask of youth. The sensation was strange. Coldness followed by warmth. A tightening, almost like the mask was crawling into her skin. Catherine watched anxiously. You do not have to do this, as she whispered. But Elizabeth did not respond. She was staring at herself in the mirror. Eyes wide, expression unreadable. When the mask dried, she washed it off. And then she froze. The faint wrinkles at the corners of her eyes? Gone. The slight dullness of her cheeks? Replaced by a luminous glow. She looked younger. Not just fresh. Younger. Catherine gasped. Elizabeth touched her face, stunned. It works, as she breathed. By God, it works. Over the next weeks, whispers rippled through the court. Not only had the Queen stopped aging, she seemed to be reversing. But Elizabeth ignored the gossip. She had what she needed. Every night, always in secret, she applied the mask. Always alone, except for Catherine. Always in silence. But after a month, the first sign appeared. One morning Elizabeth woke with a dull throbbing behind her eyes. She waved it off. But the headaches grew sharper. And sometimes, when she washed the mask away, her skin would sting, just for a moment, like a warning. Still, she continued. The price, she believed, was nothing compared to what she gained, but Catherine grew uneasy. She began noticing small changes. A certain paleness in the Queen's lips. A faint tremor in her fingers when she lifted her goblet. You are pushing yourself, Catherine urged gently. You should rest. Elizabeth shook her head. A queen does not rest. She endures. But the truth was, her body was beginning to resist something it did not understand. One night, when Arveline returned with a new batch of the mask, Catherine confronted her. What are you giving her? she demanded. Aveline's voice was calm. Something that preserves what must not fade. Catherine stepped closer. And what does it take in return? Aveline's expression did not change. If Her Majesty wishes to appear eternal, she must accept the weight of eternity. It was the first time Catherine realized the mask was more than cosmetic. It was consuming something. Slowly, subtly, but undeniably. When she attempted to warn Elizabeth, the Queen merely smiled. "You worry too much, old friend." She placed a gentle hand on Catherine's cheek. "You are the only one I trust. But a ruler must choose which fears to keep. I choose not to fear age." But the headaches continued. Then came the restless nights, the strange palpitations, the chill that settled in her bones even when the fire roared. And yet, her face remained untouched, polished, timeless. Foreign ambassadors who visited the court were stunned. One commented privately that England's queen appeared to be aging backwards. Elizabeth only smiled when told of this. Let them talk. Let them marvel. Let them fear. Youth had become her armor. But armor, if worn too long, begins to cut into the flesh beneath. The more she used the mask, the more she depended on it. Skipping even a single night left her uneasy, as though she could feel time waiting just outside the door. Ready to strike the moment, she faltered. Catherine began noticing the Queen touching her face often, checking for signs of change, worrying over shadows that weren't there. Her reflection became her obsession and her prison. One night, Catherine found Elizabeth staring at herself in the mirror long after midnight, her fingers trembling slightly. What if it stops working? Elizabeth whispered. Catherine had no answer. Outside the Queen's chamber, whispers grew bolder. Some said she had made a pact. Some said she was bewitched. Some said she had found a way to trap time itself. But no one could explain the truth, because no one knew the truth. Not yet. Because beneath the flawless glow of her skin, something else was changing. Something hidden. Something dangerous. Something that would not reveal itself until it was too late. Time had not stopped. It had simply found another way to take its due. And the debt would come due soon. For a while, the kingdom rejoiced in the radiance of its queen. Elizabeth appeared in court more luminous than ever, her face glowing with a youthfulness that defied explanation. Foreign envoys whispered in awe. English nobles bowed deeper than before. Even her enemies questioned whether she possessed some divine blessing. But beneath the surface of admiration, a shadow was growing. One only Catherine Ashley could see clearly. It began subtly. Elizabeth's appetite diminished. She would push food away after a few bites, claiming she was too occupied with matters of state, but Catherine noticed her hands shaking when she lifted her goblet. She noticed how cold the Queen's fingers felt when she took them in her own. And worse, Elizabeth had started avoiding sunlight. She claimed the glare irritated her eyes, that it made her uncomfortable. But Catherine sensed there was something deeper, a fear that sunlight might reveal something the mirror could not. The mask had become Elizabeth's sanctuary. Her dependence on it grew with every passing day. Every night, she locked her doors, only Catherine was allowed inside. The chamber filled with the strange metallic scent of Aveline's mixture, and the Queen would sit before the mirror, applying the mask. With practiced reverence, her voice during these moments would change. Soft, distant, almost detached. "As long as I preserve this face," as she would murmur, "England will remain confident. They see strength in me, not weakness." Catherine tried to intervene gently. "Your people already believe in you. Your leadership is what guides the kingdom, not your skin." Elizabeth shook her head. "You are wrong, dear friend. Men judge women by their faces. Kings rule by age. Queens rule by illusion." She said it with a sad, cold certainty Catherine had never heard before. But the mask's influence didn't stop there. One night, while Elizabeth slept, Catherine noticed something that turned her blood cold. As she adjusted the Queen's blankets, her sleeve brushed Elizabeth's hand. And the Queen did not stir. Not even slightly. Catherine bent closer. Elizabeth's pulse beat faintly. Too faintly. She leaned nearer still, her heart racing, and noticed something even more terrifying. Elizabeth's skin, beneath the glow, had grown unnaturally delicate. Too smooth, too thin. Almost brittle. Like something that had been stripped of its natural layers and polished to an unnatural perfection. She whispered, What has this mask done to you?" But Elizabeth slept on, unaware. The next morning, Catherine confronted Arveline privately. "You have to stop this. The Queen's health is declining. She is growing weaker." Arveline observed Catherine calmly. "Weakness is subjective. Her visage remains flawless. That is what matters." "No," Catherine snapped. "Her life matters." Arveline tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Beauty and life cannot exist together without sacrifice. You must understand. The mask does not only preserve the skin, it preserves the image. The more she uses it, the more it takes what it needs." Catherine felt the breath catch in her chest. "What does it take?" Aveline's next words were so soft Catherine almost missed them. "Vitality. You are draining the Queen's life." Aveline's eyes glinted. "She is a monarch. She belongs to history. And history demands perfection." Catherine felt a surge of fury. "You will stop bringing her this poison." But Arveline only smiled. "You mistake me. I do not force the Queen. The Queen chooses. And she will continue to choose until the very end." Catherine wanted to expose Arveline immediately. But who would believe her? A cosmetic artist against the will of a powerful queen? Elizabeth herself would dismiss the accusation. So Catherine made a decision. A dangerous, desperate one. She attempted to reduce Elizabeth's use of the mask. That night, She entered the Queen's chamber earlier than usual and quietly hid the container beneath a pile of linens. She believed Elizabeth, tired from the day's work, would simply sleep without it. But when Elizabeth entered the chamber and found the table empty, her expression changed instantly. A flicker of panic crossed her face. Not anger. Not annoyance. Panic. "Catherine," as she said quietly, "where is it?" Catherine tried to stay calm. "You look beautiful without it. You don't need the mask tonight." Elizabeth stepped closer. Her voice was steady but trembling beneath the surface. "You do not understand. If I skip a night, people will notice. I will notice." Catherine shook her head. "You are exhausted. The mask is harming you." Elizabeth's jaw tightened. "You will not speak of what you do not understand." She searched the room frantically until she found the container. Her hands trembled when she lifted it. Catherine stepped forward. "My queen, please." Elizabeth stopped her with a single stare. "I cannot afford to be human. I cannot afford weakness. I must remain untouched by time. Do you know what they say about queens who age? They say they waver. They say their kingdom weakens with them. I will not allow England to fall because of a wrinkle." She applied the mask with the desperation of someone clinging to the last thread of control. Catherine watched helplessly. When Elizabeth washed it off, her face glowed again, but her body swayed slightly. Her breath shallow. "Are you all right?" Catherine whispered. Elizabeth steadied herself against the table. "I am fine," as she said softly, though her voice betrayed her. But she wasn't fine. The toll was increasing. She slept more? No, she barely slept at all. Her nights were restless, her thoughts scattered. She began forgetting small things. Names. Dates. Conversations from the previous day. The mask preserved her face. But everything behind the face was changing. One morning, as she prepared for an important council meeting, Catherine noticed faint, irregular bruises forming along Elizabeth's jawline. She froze. "Your Majesty, what is this?" Elizabeth touched her face, confused. "What? I don't see anything." Catherine reached for a mirror. "Look." Elizabeth took the mirror slowly. At first, she didn't react. Then her expression shifted. A mix of fear and denial. "It's nothing," as she whispered. "It must be the lighting." But Catherine wasn't fooled. The bruises were not normal. They looked like subtle burns. Small, dark patches that appeared beneath the layer of flawless skin the mask created. That night, Catherine watched carefully as Elizabeth washed her face after the mask dried. And her worst fear became reality. For just a second, before the glow settled in, Catherine caught a glimpse of what the mask was hiding. Elizabeth's real skin, beneath the polished surface, was dull, grayish, and frighteningly thin. Almost as if her face had begun to lose its natural life. Catherine gasped. Elizabeth quickly turned away. panic flashing in her eyes. "You weren't meant to see that." "My queen," Catherine whispered. "Your skin is dying." Elizabeth clenched her jaw. "It is being reborn. You saw only the transition." "No," Catherine said firmly. "You are destroying yourself." Elizabeth shook her head violently. "I am preserving myself. I am preserving England. This face is not mine alone. It belongs to the crown." Catherine felt tears burning in her eyes. "You will not survive this." Elizabeth turned away, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then I will be a beautiful ghost." But the true horror began days later. During a speech to the court, Elizabeth stood tall and resplendent as always. Her gown shimmered. Her posture was regal. Her face was radiant. But halfway through her address, her voice faltered. She gripped the edge of the throne, her knuckles turning white. She swayed ever so slightly. Catherine rushed to her side, whispering urgently, "You must sit." Elizabeth forced a smile to hide the weakness. But her breath was shallow. Her eyes lost focus for a moment, just a moment. But enough for Catherine to see the truth. Elizabeth wasn't just exhausted. She was fading. The council dismissed it as fatigue. But Catherine knew better. The Queen's vitality was slipping away. Night by night, mask by mask. Unraveling visited only once more after that incident. She left a new container. Stronger, more concentrated. And a warning wrapped in her cryptic calm. The longer she resists aging, the faster aging will take its revenge. Catherine watched Elizabeth apply the new mixture with trembling hands, desperation sharpening her movements. The mask hardened on her face, cracking faintly as if forming a shell. And when she washed it off that night, the glow returned. But so did something else. A tiny streak of silver appeared in her hair. Not naturally, but sharply, like a sudden flash of lightning. Elizabeth stared at it in shock. Then, without a word, she reached for scissors and cut it off. Catherine caught her hand mid-air. "Stop!" Elizabeth's voice broke. "I cannot let them see me weaken." Catherine whispered, "And what if they see you die instead?" Elizabeth had no answer. Her reflection shone back at her with unnatural brilliance. But the eyes in the mirror looked hollow, as if something deep within her had begun to dim. But she continued, night after night, because she feared something more than death. She feared becoming ordinary, aging, becoming mortal in a world that demanded immortality from its queen. And as Catherine watched helplessly, she realized something terrifying. Elizabeth was no longer using the mask. The mask was using her. It was becoming her identity, her armor, her addiction. And soon, it would become her undoing. Elizabeth's obsession grew like a shadow stretching across her throne. Slowly, silently, and then all at once. The mask had given her what she wanted. A face untouched by time. A beauty that made foreign enviers question their own eyes. A presence so radiant that even her enemies hesitated. But the price? The price had begun to seep into every corner of her life. The mask no longer merely preserved her skin. It controlled her routine, her mood, her decisions. And soon, her sanity. Catherine Ashley saw the change long before Elizabeth did. It began with small things. Elizabeth stopped laughing the way she used to. That bright, confident laugh that once shook the halls of her palace. She stopped eating the foods she loved. Stopped riding her horses, stopped reading poetry. Stopped singing quietly in her chambers after long days. Things that made her human faded away one by one. But worst of all, Elizabeth had begun to fear mirrors. Not in the ordinary sense. She still stood before them every night when she applied the mask. But during the day, if sunlight struck her reflection unexpectedly, she would flinch. Because the sunlight revealed what candlelight hid. It showed faint irregularities beneath the polished perfection. Like cracks beneath a painted surface. She could no longer bear natural light on her face. And yet, every night, she ran toward the mask as if it were salvation. Catherine tried to limit its use. She would delay preparations, distract the Queen with reports, letters, anything. But Elizabeth always found her way back to that cold, shimmering mixture. One evening, Elizabeth asked Catherine a question that chilled her to the core. "Do you ever imagine what I would look like without it?" Catherine hesitated. "I imagine you would look human and beautiful without effort." Elizabeth's lips trembled faintly. A rare moment of vulnerability. Human is not enough for a queen. Catherine reached for her hand. Then be a queen who is allowed to grow. A queen who is allowed to age. Elizabeth gently withdrew her hand. "I am not allowed." And the way she said it, softly, bitterly, as though she were confessing a secret wound, broke Catherine's heart. But her worry turned into terror the night she found Elizabeth awake at dawn, sitting stiffly on the edge of her bed. She wasn't wearing the mask. She hadn't washed her face. Her hair was disheveled, her gown wrinkled. But none of that mattered. What mattered was her expression. Her eyes were wide, fixed, empty, staring straight ahead. Catherine rushed to her. "My queen, are you unwell?" Elizabeth didn't respond. Catherine knelt before her, calling her name again. And only then did the Queen blink, slowly, as though returning from some distant void. "I forgot," Elizabeth whispered. "Forgot what?" Catherine asked gently. "I forgot where I was. I forgot who I was." Catherine's breath caught. Elizabeth continued, her voice trembling. "For a moment, just a moment, I felt nothing. No fear, no duty, no thought. As if I were fading." Catherine felt her stomach twist. This was no ordinary exhaustion. This was no normal fatigue. The mask was consuming her from within. That same day, Elizabeth summoned Arveline. The woman arrived with her usual unnerving calm, carrying a new batch of the mixture. But something in her demeanor was different. Almost triumphant, as if she had foreseen this moment. Elizabeth didn't waste time. What is happening to me? Arveline studied her face, her eyes lingering on the faint floors peeking through beneath the glow. You are resisting the process. What process? Elizabeth snapped. Arveline spoke slowly, as if explaining a simple truth. The mask does not merely erase age. It replaces what age takes. It preserves the appearance by absorbing the life beneath it. Elizabeth stiffened. It feeds on me? Not feeds, Arveline corrected. Exchanges. You give it vitality, and it gives you youth. Catherine stepped forward, furious. You never said this. Arveline glanced at her. You never asked. Elizabeth's hands trembled. How much does it take? Arveline paused. And that pause was enough. Elizabeth's breath quickened. Tell me. Arveline finally answered. As much as you allow. Elizabeth stared at her hands. Her skin, perfect on the surface, felt icy, hollow, wrong. And if I stop using it? Aveline's expression darkened slightly. Then everything it has held back will return. All at once. Elizabeth froze. Time she had evaded for years would strike her in a single blow. Catherine whispered, horrified. She would die. Arveline did not deny it. Mortality is, or a delicate thing. Catherine shouted, You have trapped the queen. Arveline calmly looked at Elizabeth. She trapped herself when she chose to fear age more than death. Elizabeth felt her knees weaken. The truth struck her harder than any sword. She wasn't using the mask to stay young. She was using it to hide from herself. From vulnerability. From judgment. From the weight of expectation. But that realization did not free her. It terrified her. Because now she understood. She couldn't stop. If she stopped, the mask would take everything back. Years, vitality, life. Her heart pounded. She whispered, How long do I have? Arveline tilted her head. That depends. The more you use it, the longer your beauty stays. But the faster your spirit fades. And if I don't use it, then beauty fades, and time claims its debt. Elizabeth felt trapped between two nightmares. To continue was to slowly lose herself. To stop was to lose everything instantly. The room fell silent. For the first time in her reign, Elizabeth looked small, fragile, powerless. Not before her council. Not before foreign kings. But before time itself. Arveline placed the container on the table and turned to leave. Elizabeth called out faintly, Will it kill me? Arveline paused at the door. Everything does, eventually. But this gives you a choice of how you wish to be remembered. When she left, the room felt colder than winter. Elizabeth collapsed into Catherine's arms, trembling like a child. "I cannot be remembered as withered," as she whispered. "I cannot be seen as weak." Catherine held her tightly. "You will be remembered for your strength, not your skin." But Elizabeth shook her head violently. "No. They remember kings for their campaigns. But queens are remembered for how they look." And in her eyes, Catherine saw it. Not vanity, not pride. Fear. A deep, ancient fear of becoming irrelevant. Forgettable. Ordinary. Fear that the world would compare her to younger women. Diminish her achievements. Erase her legacy the moment her face changed. Fear that if she aged publicly, the men who doubted her from the start would finally say, "See, she was only a woman after all." And so, Elizabeth chose the path she had been walking all along. She continued, but something inside her had changed. She no longer used the mask to preserve beauty. She used it to survive, to hold back the collapse waiting behind her reflection. Each night the mask grew colder, heavier, hungrier. Her eyes dulled. Her breath shortened. Her heartbeat weakened. But her skin glowed brighter than ever. A perfection that felt almost unnatural. Her court noticed. Some said the Queen's beauty had become too flawless, too smooth. Like marble rather than flesh. Some whispered she no longer blinked as often. Others noted that her handshakes felt colder. Rumors began spreading. She is enchanted. She is bewitched. She is not entirely alive. But Elizabeth ignored the whispers. Ignoring them was easier than facing the truth. She felt herself slipping. Her reflection had begun to frighten her. Her eyes no longer looked like her own. Her smile felt unnatural, like a mask beneath the mask. And one night, the nightmare she had feared finally came. Elizabeth lifted the new mixture to her face. But her hand froze. Not from hesitation. From pain. A stabbing, piercing pain that shot through her entire arm. She dropped the container, and it shattered across the floor. The mixture spilled like cold milk onto the stone tiles. Elizabeth stared at the broken glass, horror flooding her. Catherine rushed forward. "You don't need it." Elizabeth turned toward her, and for the first time her voice broke completely. "I will die without it." Catherine shook her head. "No. You will live. You can recover. We can find help." Elizabeth whispered. "You didn't see my face beneath it." "I saw it, Catherine. I saw what time is waiting to do to me." Catherine grabbed her shoulders. "You are more than a face." But Elizabeth trembled violently. "I am a queen. I am not allowed to be anything else." Her body swayed. Weak, fragile, exhausted beyond measure. Catherine held her, terrified. She whispered, "This will destroy you." Elizabeth whispered back, "It already has." And in that moment, both women understood something devastating. They were past the point of return. The mask had altered Elizabeth's fate. Her body was trapped between youth and decay. Her spirit between fear and duty. Her identity between queen and ghost. And the final collapse. The final unraveling. The final horror was now inevitable. After Arveline disappeared from court like a whisper swallowed by night, Elizabeth convinced herself she had regained control. The palace returned to its routine. Diplomats arriving, petitions stacking, and ladies fluttering through the corridors like jeweled birds. But beneath all that noise, one truth followed her like a shadow she could never outrun. Her face was failing. The damage left by the mask of youth did not fade with time. It deepened. Small cracks formed beneath her makeup. Her skin grew thin, powdery, fragile. Sometimes, when she smiled, there was a faint tightening, as if her flesh resisted the expression. Her ladies pretended not to see, but their silence said everything. Elizabeth began waking earlier than anyone. Hours before dawn, she would sit alone before her mirror, using trembling fingertips to trace the lines she tried so desperately to erase. Her reflection became an opponent, one that stared back with a mixture of accusation and exhaustion. She hated it, and yet she could not look away. Every morning, layers of white paint buried the truth. Every night, those same layers were peeled away, revealing something harsher. Tired, haunted, the courtiers noticed. The queen keeps her distance. The queen avoids sunlight. The queen hides something beneath her paint. Elizabeth began wearing higher necklines, longer sleeves, veils that framed her face. Not enough to seem unusual, but enough to protect her from prying eyes. But protection never lasts forever. One afternoon, during a meeting with ambassadors, the heat of the fire was too strong. Her makeup softened. A small streak of white slid across her cheek. The ambassador froze. Her counselors looked away. Only one voice broke the silence. "Your Majesty, perhaps we might continue after a rest?" She dismissed them with a smile, but her heart hammered as she rushed back to her private chambers. The moment the doors closed, she pressed both hands to her face and whispered, "Why does the world demand youth from me? Why must I be flawless to be obeyed?" No answer came, only the echo of her own breath, ragged and unsteady. Days passed. Her sleep grew shallow, her meals smaller, her fears louder. She remembered her mother, beheaded before the world even allowed her to grow old. She remembered how fragile a woman's power was, how quickly public love could turn into public hatred. She remembered how many enemies waited for a single sign of weakness. And she wondered, if they saw my real face, would they still fear me? Or would they simply pity me? That question chased her relentlessly. Her loneliness deepened too. Foreign princes still sent proposals. Yet she now refused to meet any in person. Even her closest advisors saw her less and less. Her beauty, once her shining armor, had become her prison. Sometimes, when her ladies left, she stood before her mirror for hours, touching her face gently, as if trying to apologize to it. "Forgive me," she would whisper, "for asking you to be more than human." But time never forgives. It only waits. One night, during a rare moment of stillness, she sat in her chambers, candles flickering around her like trembling stars. She removed her makeup slowly, not with the practiced motions of a queen preparing for rest, but with the hesitancy of someone peeling away a disguise. Every layer revealed a truth she had run from. A faint hollow beneath her eyes, a stiffness around her mouth, the pale, cold texture of skin exhausted by years of pressure and poison. Her hands shook. For the first time, she allowed herself to cry, not because she feared ugliness, but because she feared what it symbolized. The end of her reign, the end of her power, the end of the image she had built so tirelessly. She cried for the girl she once was, a young princess who never got to choose her destiny. She cried for the woman she became, a queen sculpted by fear and expectations. And she cried for the soul behind the crown, the part of her that never learned how to live without being needed. When the tears dried, she looked at her reflection again. This time, something was different. In the candlelight, beneath all the exhaustion, she saw strength, raw, weathered, unpolished, but real. The strength that had survived 1,000 betrayals. The strength that had held England together. The strength that no mask had ever given her. Perhaps she didn't need eternal beauty. Perhaps she only needed the courage to be herself. The next morning, she did something unthinkable. She told her ladies not to cover her lines. She told them not to whiten every inch of her face. She told them to stop trying to turn her into the ghostly, porcelain figure she had once demanded to be. Her ladies exchanged terrified glances, but they obeyed. When Elizabeth stepped into the great hall, the court froze. Gone was the mask-like white paint. Gone was the unnatural glow. Gone was the illusion of untouched youth. Instead, there stood a queen with faint lines, tired eyes, and a presence more powerful than ever. Not the immortal maiden they imagined, but the iron-hearted woman who had survived everything. Whispers rose, but these whispers did not carry the sting of mockery or the scent of fear. They carried respect. For the first time, the court saw not the legend, but the human behind the legend. And that humanity made her far more formidable than eternal beauty ever could. From that day forward, Elizabeth still wore makeup, still wore the white mask when required by tradition. But it no longer defined her. It became a symbol, not a shield, a reminder of the years she fought against time, and the moment she finally accepted it. When she died years later, The world did not remember her as the queen who never aged, but as the queen who ruled, despite everything that tried to break her. Immortality was never in her face. It was in her legacy. In the storms she survived. In the choices she made. In the empire she built. And in the truth she finally embraced. A queen does not need eternal beauty. She only needs eternal strength.